Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm just going to iron out the myths which people have been talking about crocheting and knitting. But before I do that, I just want to take this opportunity to thank those who have liked, subscribed, watched my videos, and left a comment down below. And also want to encourage those who haven't yet done so to please go ahead after watching, subscribe, leave a good comment or something which I need to adjust. Most welcome. And share with other people, like if you can. Okay, in today's video, like I said, we are going to iron out myths about knitting and crocheting. Let me just give you a brief history of knitting and crocheting. This knitting and crocheting started in the 19th century, in the 1840s, 1850s. People started knitting and crocheting. And this was mainly housewives who were staying at home, the stay-at-home moms. And in most ladies anyway didn't go to work. It was the men who used to go out to work, and the ladies would be at home looking after the household chores, the kids, doing the washing, the cooking, and all that. So they learned how to knit and crochet because they had to keep their family warm, because these are the people who knitted their blankets, crocheted or knitted their blankets, who their socks, their hats, their cardigans, name it. Anything you would think of was knitted. Knickers, name it, they used to knit, so as to keep their family warm. And you then find out that most of the people in those days used to learn how to knit. And it worked for quite some time until it ended up being a bit of a business to augment their husband's salaries, especially where they found other ladies who were not fast enough or who had big families and could not, finish to knit for them all to be comfortable. So they would sort of outsource and ask these other ladies to knit and buy from them, which was a very good thing because it meant that they were also helping to bring money in the home. So yes, that's how it all started with that. But as time went on, in the 20th century, there was the advent of the factories, the machinery, and all that. And then when that happened, it sort of like took a slow motion because people were just buying ready-made garments because it's much faster. A machine can produce hundreds, if not thousands, depending on its quality of items, of garments within a very short space of time. And knitting and crocheting, it takes time to just come up with one garment. So this sort of like, took a slow death, but it didn't die out completely, but it just sort of like subsided a bit. And then come the late 20th century, even 21st century now, it's like a boom of the knitting and the crocheting. You can only just judge from the amount of wool you see in the shops that everybody is just interested in knitting. Most people, not everybody, in knitting and crocheting. So yes, I'm saying knitting and crocheting, and people might be wondering why knitting and crocheting. Yes, it's a similar thing in the sense that they all use wool. Knitting uses wool, crocheting uses wool. At the same time, knitting and crocheting, they use some kind of apparatus. Crocheting uses a crochet hook, knitting using knitting needles. But the difference is crochet hook is the only thing you need for crocheting, nothing else. You can start and finish a garment with your crochet hook, which is opposed to knitting. Knitting, you need knitting needles, you need knitting needles, but there are several knitting needles. Like, okay, here I've got 3 sizes of knitting needles. These are jumbo knitting needles. Just like you can also have 3 sizes of crochet hooks. I've got a size 10, size 3, size 2.5, size 4 crochet hook. These are all, different sizes. But over and above knitting needles, you've also got all sorts of types like circular knitting needles. I have two different types here, sizes, sorry. Those ones, they are circular knitting needles. I've also got them in a smaller version, circular knitting needles. And you can also have knitting needles which are sharp both ends to knit socks or circular things as well. And you can be using like 4 in that instance. So, you know, that's why maybe most people think that knitting is more complicated than crocheting. Because in crocheting, once you learn how to do chain, single crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, you're almost like done. Whereas with knitting, there's quite some more to learn, and you can also be using these in conjunction with what they call a cable needle to produce a garment. And, you know, all sorts of things can be also added to be able to come up with a garment on knitting. So maybe that's why people say it's difficult. But for me, I love both knitting and crocheting, and for now I can't really say which is easier than the other. But yes, that's it. That's the difference. This is crocheting. This is knitting, and there's this talk that knitting and crocheting is for old ladies. It's a granny's thing. Yes, maybe it's a granny thing. That's why we came up with these things which they call granny squares and all that kind of stuff. But yes, maybe those days grannies were the ones, you know, like my age group, were the ones who would sit and knit. But nowadays, it's not grannies anymore. You'll be surprised that it's all sorts and all sorts of people. Will be all grades of people, all ages are knitting and crocheting. And they used to also say, you know, it's for people who are not working, who've got nothing to do and all that. But when it came to the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, this is when, you know, most people learned how to knit, especially the Generation Z, those who were born after the 1995s, 96s, those kind of girls or children. Because why they were called Generation Z, they are Generation Zoomers. They used to watch Zoom on their cell phones, on the television, finding something to watch. But when they found themselves sitting at home 24 hours, that ended up being boring and they had to do something different. Most people took up to knitting and crocheting. They learned how to knit and crochet. They taught themselves from YouTubes and all that kind of stuff. So that meant that it was no longer a thing for old people. Now the youngsters were also into it. And people said, don't worry. As soon as things get back to normal, these people will leave everything and forget about it. But that didn't happen. If you check the YouTube right now, you see it full of girls who are busy knitting and crocheting on their YouTube channels and doing a very good job out of it. Although they are still working, but in their spare time, they have time to grow their channels doing knitting and crocheting, mostly learned during the COVID pandemic. So that way it already wiped out the issue that it was for old people and that kind of stuff. And the good thing about it, how they really liked it more, is because then they will be able to design their own fashions. You know, imagine a girl coming to a function with a jacket or something which they have made using granny squares. And let me, believe you me, the granny squares which people are making these days, they are not just this size. They can be any size, bigger, any shapes and all that. No longer a square. At times they are diamond shaped like a triangle or whatever. So once they do that and design their own things, they will be the only people wearing that kind of stuff. And they'll be very proud of it, as opposed to just going into a shop and buying a ready-made garment. They make what they like for different functions. And the good thing as well about these things is when you knit and give somebody a present, or crochet and give somebody a present, what I realized is most people do not appreciate, because maybe it's not maybe as posh as something which has just been bought in the shop. But what I've realized with getting something which has been crocheted or knitted is Somebody who gives you that spend days making it for you, and each time they pick up their crochet or knitting needles to make it, they have you in mind. I have to finish this for so and so. I have to finish this for so and so. Yes, somebody can walk into a shop and buy a ready-made garment for you and give it to you, maybe it being nicer than what a crocheter will have given you. But I want to believe that this one who spent more time with you in mind, maybe they are expressing their love more and they need to be appreciated. And most people don't. They just think, this, that, but I think they need to be appreciated. And believe you me, most of this stuff is not rough, it's not useless stuff. It's actually good stuff, if I may care to say. It's actually very good stuff which people make and give to other people. Yeah, and in as much as people want to then say now that it's for ladies, it's not for ladies only. I've come across boys and mature men who knit and crochet, much more producing better things than ladies. There's this small boy, maybe small compared to my age, maybe he's in the 15, 16, 17, I don't know how old he is now. He's a seasoned crocheter. He can crochet and very fast as well. I mean, his speed, most ladies will compete to get to that rate of crocheting. He's a very good guy. And I've also come across men who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who've had YouTube channels where they are crocheting and showcasing their stuff. And they've been doing it for more than 10, 15, 20 years. And these men produce outstanding things, which most ladies cannot produce. I remember, I've forgotten the name of this gentleman. He made a big blanket using the seasons from January to December. So I don't know exactly how he did it, but he would be making these large squares depicting the temperatures, the seasons, and whatever. And it was like doing it from 1st of January to 31st of December, and then join it all together. It was such a magnificent thing. And this was a man, very creative, and it was very good. So this myth that it's only done by ladies or, no men, please, let's wipe it out. If you are interested in knitting and crocheting, please go ahead and live your life the way you want to live it. Gone are the days when people tell you what to do and what not to do. If you are really liking it and it doesn't harm anybody, then by all means, go ahead and master whatever you have to master. That's my take. I won't say to anybody, please don't, because you are a man or what. If you enjoy it, do it, and you reap out of it. Remember, I said earlier on that those days the old ladies made business out of it. Now this is the time where people are making big business. I remember I posted a video where I did mention the kind of videos where one can make, you can look it up if you're interested, the kind of businesses which one can run using crochet and knitting. Besides just selling to the markets and to neighbors or to friends or whatever, you can actually be selling online on the Etsy, on the Instagram, and be, making good monies and mastering orders. And you can also have a business to just teach people how to do it. I mean, the list is endless. Watch that video. You'll be able to come up with all sorts of insights as to what businesses can be done using this kind of stuff. Yeah. And having said that, the good thing about knitting and crocheting is it enhances your creativity. You become very creative. Even if it means you're starting off, using somebody else's pattern, you can always, make it customized to your own liking and all that. You can change things here and there and be creative and come up with your own designs and all that. There's no harm and nobody can stop you from doing that. It's also very good for your mental health, because instead of sitting, stressing, twiddling your thumbs and all that, you are busy doing this and you are concentrating. That way you are not thinking about any worrisome stuff. You are just worrying about what you are doing, completing and all that. And this is what I've observed. It might be true, it might not be true, But people, who've been knitting and crocheting most of their time don't end up with dementia. You see them in their 70s, even 80s, they are still okay. They don't have dementia. So I want to believe that this can slow down dementia as well, because you are not stressing too much. You are busy doing, things which you enjoy. That is, if you are enjoying it. It also makes you relax and stay calm, because there's no way you can knit and if you are fidgeting and all that. And the good thing about it, you can sit, watch television, discuss with other people, talking on the phone while you're knitting and crocheting. So it's not something which you have to do quietly in your own corner. You can be with other people and enjoying their company, but you are still knitting and crocheting. Yes, I've seen some people walking and knitting and crocheting, but it's not the norm. People normally sit down to do that, because walking and people can trip and fall. But it's easier done while you are sitting. And the good thing about it is you can also build a community around yourself. Whether on social media, whether meeting in a club or whatever, but you'll end up with people who are interested in knitting and crocheting. You share ideas, you share patterns, you teach each other how to do A, B, C, D, and at the same time, you can tell each other where to buy nice wool or good wool or cheap wool or something which is on sale. And you just share all those ideas. That is building your own community about knitting and crocheting, which is very, very good. And the other thing I found as well with knitting and crocheting is you have to be a good time manager, very good for time management. Because if, say, you are an advanced knitter crocheter and you are not getting orders which have to be met on specific days, but say you are going to work or you have a big family to look after, you end up having to manage your time, that I have to do A, B, C, D, then sit for so long and do this in order to meet these deadlines. Because once you don't do that, you are going to lose customers if you don't finish the items in time, or you find yourself lying awake the whole night trying to meet your deadline. So you'll end up being a very good time manager in knitting and crocheting, especially when you are now a big guy doing big orders. Like I said, that you need normally crochet while you are sitting down. It's very, very difficult to be sitting all day and then end up with a good health, because you'll be in one position repeating the same sort of like motions with your hands and whatever. So it's very, very important that when you have knitted for some time, you stand up, walk a bit, do other things, then come back and continue, and that kind of, so that you don't harm your back. It's the same thing as what happens with people who sit on the computer to knit and to do their work on computers. If they sit there all day long, they end up with backaches and all sorts of complaints. So it's a similar kind of thing where you need to watch your health and be able to stand up, leave what you are doing, and go and exercise. Because believe you me, it can be so engrossed. You can be so engrossed that you don't even check the time moving. That I've been sitting here for 3 hours. No, I don't believe it. It can happen. So it's a warning that please don't get carried away. Look after your health, because it's very important. I think for now, that's all I want to share with you about knitting and crocheting. That is not just for elderly people, it's for everybody, boys, girls, men, women, grannies, whoever is interested. It's just your choice. So please go ahead and do what you like to do if this is what you can be interested in. Just want to thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment down below. Say bye for now.